On the morning of August 20th, 1966, a teenage boy was flying a kite on Vintém Hill in Niterói, Brazil. He was alone on the hill. The city of Rio de Janeiro stretched out below him in the distance. Then he saw something in the tall grass that stopped him completely. Two men, lying side by side, perfectly still, dressed in formal suits with waterproof coats layered on top. He thought at first they were sleeping. Then he moved closer, and he understood that they were not sleeping. He ran down the hill and told the authorities. It took police and firefighters an entire day to reach the remote location. When they finally arrived at the scene, what they found made no sense at all. The two men were lying in the grass exactly as the boy had described, neatly positioned, side by side, as though they had simply chosen to lie down and rest. There was no blood, no signs of a struggle, no visible injuries of any kind, but covering the eyes of each man was a crude, homemade mask, cut from sheets of lead, shaped and bent by hand to rest over the eyes like makeshift goggles. Not medical equipment, not protective gear from any known profession, just raw lead, cut and shaped by someone who made them deliberately, for a specific purpose that nobody could explain. Next to the bodies, an empty water bottle, a packet of 2 wet towels, a small amount of cash, and a handwritten note. The note read, 1630, be at the agreed place. 1830, ingest capsules. After effect, protect metals. Await signal. Mask. Police had never seen anything like it. The two men were quickly identified. Manuel Pereira da Cruz, 32 years old. Miguel José Viana, 34. Both from the town of Campos dos Goitacazes, several hours from Rio de Janeiro. They were not criminals. They were not fugitives. They were electronics technicians, men who repaired radios and televisions for a living. Both men had told their families they were traveling to buy equipment for their workshop, a completely ordinary explanation, the kind of thing no one would question. But receipts and witness statements told a different story entirely. On August 17th, 3 days before the bodies were found, the two men had boarded a bus, not to Sao Paulo as they had claimed, but to Niterói. Once there, they purchased matching waterproof coats from a local shop. Then they walked into a bar and bought a single bottle of water. The bartender who served them remembered Miguel clearly. He seemed deeply nervous, she said. He kept checking his watch, over and over, as though he was counting down to something. That was the last time anyone saw them alive. When detectives spoke to the men's wives, they uncovered something that reframed the entire case. Both Manuel and Miguel had for years been deeply involved in a belief system called scientific Spiritism, a practice that combined electronics, spiritualism, and a belief that the right frequency, the right ritual, could open a channel of communication to other realms. They believed, genuinely and seriously believed, that intelligent contact from beyond this world was possible, and that they were close to achieving it. The lead masks, investigators began to theorize, were not decorative. They were protective, to shield their eyes from an intense burst of light, perhaps from an extraterrestrial source that the men believed was coming. The note began to make a terrible kind of sense. Ingest capsules. After effect, protect metals. Await signal. Mask. They had followed instructions, step by step, down to the minute. The capsules were never found. No trace of them remained, and the bodies had been lying on the hill for 3 days before they were discovered, long enough for the summer heat to destroy any hope of an accurate toxicology report. The organs were collected. Then, in one of the most catastrophic failures in the history of Brazilian forensic investigation, they were left sitting on a shelf for so long that they deteriorated completely and were simply discarded, without the tests ever being performed. To this day, no one knows what killed Manuel Pereira da Cruz and Miguel José Viana. In the weeks that followed, witnesses came forward. A woman named Gracinda reported that on the evening the men disappeared, she had seen strange lights above Vintém Hill, a bright oval object, a flash that lit up the entire hillside. Others described a loud explosion. Several witnesses independently described a bluish glow hovering above the spot where the bodies were later found. Some witnesses reported seeing the two men enter the hill with a third man, a man who was never identified and who was never seen again. No third body was ever found. The theories multiplied. A UFO encounter gone wrong, a spiritual ritual using a substance that proved fatal, a secret experiment, perhaps connected to the Cold War and the race between nations to understand psychic phenomenon that killed the participants. A cult, a poison, a signal that never came. Not one of these theories has ever been proven. Not one has ever been ruled out. Vintém Hill is still there today. The city of Niterói has grown around it. Occasionally, hikers walk the same slope where the boy flew his kite that morning in August of 1966. The lead masks are locked in an archive somewhere. The note exists in police records. The two graves in Campos dos Goitacazes, numbered 77,234 and 77,235, lie side by side, just as the men were found. And the question that has haunted investigators, journalists, and researchers for nearly 60 years remains completely unanswered. What were they waiting for? This has been Dark Verdict. The case remains open. And if you have ever heard a theory that no one has considered, leave it in the comments below, because after 60 years, every possibility is still on the table.